he said, you know what? I think you should rework this with like a young adult vibe. And this was before Hunger Games, Maze Runner, all that YA explosion, right? And so we were like, what are you talking about? Like, no, we want adult fiction, right? Like we want like adult movies. We don't want to why would we want to tell stories with teenagers, right? And then all of a sudden, that language is in development and it never gets produced, while at the same time, Hunger Games, Maze Runner, all these things sort of, shoot off the charts. I can look back and say, we were 100% wrong. Like, he was 100% right. We were 100% wrong.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast, Vidcast with 1-3 Creative. We're talking about Superstory. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship as it pertains to the entertainment world. We're going to be talking about not being lazy, getting out of comfort zones. It should be some fun stuff. So
sure.
We're down one guy. We got Houston Howard. We got myself, Travis Carter, a.k.a. T-Rev, and Brad Lusher is in travel mode during that. It's a Thanksgiving week.
I thought Thanksgiving was illegal this year. That's what I want to know. Is Brad breaking the law? Was it just illegal in California and he fled? I don't know. I thought Thanksgiving was canceled because the governors told us we had to cancel it. I'm not sure how that works.
I read an article last night that the top 25 states that people are fleeing from that had like a 50% or over departure rate, 51%.
Sure.
And LA was I don't know if they were top 7, top 5, but they were definitely one of the top ones.
What's number one?
I didn't get to number one. I ended up falling asleep. But
okay.
I'm going to get to that. I'm sorry, guys. That's a big
I got you. That's a tease. That's a tease. Yeah. But yeah, so Brad is having an illegal Thanksgiving somewhere. I think he's in Pittsburgh, right? That's hopefully it's that underground black market Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's like how China has underground churches. Now in America we have underground Thanksgiving. So you can't buy the big turkey at the grocery store because that's gonna tip them off. Wait a minute, that big turkey looks like it's for like 12 people. So what you have to do, I think you have to tactically buy a bunch of small turkeys
exactly.
at different times. Yeah. Different family members. I got 100%. So yeah, and toilet paper starting to disappear too, right? It's just a crazy time.
It happened, and we all made fun of each other for buying up the toilet paper. So the poking fun at would have eliminated it in the future, but that's a whole other podcast subject. Right, sure. The mentality of people knowing that you did this thing before and knowing that the toilet paper didn't save you from coronavirus and there was still plenty left. You were able to wipe yourself after you used the bath. I mean,
sure.
That's a whole nother subject.
Just crazy times. So we want to escape those times and talk about some things that can bring you value in your creative life, because now we're going into another series of lockdowns. I think this is, again, a good season to, while you're locked down, double down on your creative work, double down on your project. And I talk, a lot about entrepreneurship in entertainment, and how if entertainment producers and entertainment creators had more of an entrepreneurship mindset, they would build their brands differently. I'm just completely convinced of that. And there's a lot of things that we can learn from entrepreneurship. Travis, you and I are entrepreneurs, and we're creatives. And so, it's an interesting thing to approach a creative business with an entrepreneurial mindset. I know we say that a lot, but then I realize as I talk to people, especially creatives, they don't really understand what an entrepreneurial mindset is. Like, what does that mean? There's a lot of misconceptions about what an entrepreneur is, right? I think, if you would say to people, what do you think of when you hear that word entrepreneur? They probably think of somebody like Gary Vee, somebody just like, super type A, fast talking, and wheeling dealer, sort of the hustle, the grind, that born hustler vibe, which, Gary Vee is obviously a tremendous entrepreneur in his own right. But I'm wondering, what do you think, Trev? You think an entrepreneur is just born an entrepreneur, or are the skill sets of an entrepreneur learned and attained through practice and trial and error, et cetera, or maybe a little bit of both?
They're definitely born. They're born just like the talent of a writer is born, the talent of an actor. Now, anyone can become an entrepreneur, anyone. And I think everyone should in some form of fashion, because it's not as hard as you think, but it is born in you. Some people innately not think of ideas. An entrepreneur has an idea, has a product, has a service, knows how to move on it, knows how to galvanize people. Some of the characteristics are self-driven, self-motivated, purposed, and so those are some of the innate things, right? Some of the characteristics, and they know how to make money. They get the concept. Sure. All those things that I just mentioned itself can be learned, practiced. Why people don't do it is they don't get out of their comfort zones, because to be driven, to get up, to move on an idea, you got to get out of that comfort zone. You got to talk to someone, pitch it to someone. So just like a writer has this innate way to put words together and colorful, you could put me in one of your classes, and I consider myself a writer, but I'm saying, say I'm not a writer at all. You could say, hey, here's step A, B, and C, just like we do with our Superstory, our Transmedia. You can do this with your project. You can transmediate it. You don't have to have a natural transmedia mind that thinks of all these different connections, right? So yes, you can be taught entrepreneurship. And I think that the creatives in Hollywood, writer, director, musician, songwriter, producer, they're too myopic, singularly focused. They want it their way, I mean, I just want to write the script. I just want to write the song. Sure. I just want to produce the track and throw it up in the air, and someone come love me, give me money, and that's all I want to do. That's kind of like saying, I want my wife to feed me grapes, wash my feet, only do this, have sexual relations with me 7 times in a 3-day period. But, that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Right? Yeah. So, anyone that ever been married knows that doesn't exist.
It doesn't
right?
exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
So quit doing that with your creative site. Why are you doing that and saying, if the whole goal is you want to write for a living and write more, do something, be a jack of all trades, master of some, as we kind of talked about a couple of podcasts ago with the Benjamin Franklin misquote. Be a master of some. So add some, have that jack be entrepreneurship, so you can write, sing, act, create as much as you want, because that's the only way that you're going to do it. People aren't just handing out people are scared of COVID. People are scared to give out money. What is it going to take to get a project launched? And I think that's where the entrepreneurial mindset, and using this time of during this pandemic, however long it's going to last, you can just be grinding out projects, reading the right books to build up your entrepreneurship.
This is why I love hip hop culture primarily. I love talking with hip hop artists, producers, writers, whoever, the artists themselves, because I feel like hip hop culture naturally leans into entrepreneurship. There's like this hustle that goes along with hip hop that when we start talking about entrepreneurial mindset and getting on the hustle and getting on the grind and attacking the market, like it's an easy sell with the hip hop artists, right? But when we pivot over to a screenwriter or to a novelist, it's a very different conversation. And I think that's primarily because we go from, extrovert to introvert. I feel like, writers naturally, creators naturally are a little bit more internal. They're more internalized. That's why they write good stuff. Hip hop artists, music artists to a large extent just naturally have that type A charisma. And so is an extroverted personality a requirement for entrepreneurship? Can an introvert is an introvert capable of an entrepreneurial mindset? What do you think?
Again, it's taught, and it does take getting out of comfort zones. It's kind of like a lot of salespeople are what they call the one social style expressive.
Sure.
Or amiable, relationship driven. But some amiable people are introverts. And so when we say introvert, extrovert, I think that you don't have, I wouldn't want someone to become scared and frightened off from entrepreneurship, pitching their products, getting out there, learning the business of P&L, profit and loss, because those introverts, they can learn a lot. They can write great. They get along, but then that's the same time that they can use to develop skills, learn these skills, since it's not all natural.
Sure.
And then I would tell that introvert who's to overcome the fear of, you don't have to be around a bunch of people, but be around some people. We have this internet thing now that you can connect with people on LinkedIn and so Instagram and DM me. Hey, if you're afraid to talk, you may have to do a lot of typing and a lot of DMs to find the right person who's going to like you, but do it. The extrovert's going to go out and talk. Hey, what's up? What's going on? I'm making the phone calls. Let's do this.
What's interesting is whenever you hear Mark Zuckerberg talk, Zuckerberg is like, I think obviously an introverted guy. He's that computer nerd, sit in a dark room for 12 hours and code something type of a guy. And obviously he's learned the art of getting out and being able to communicate to people and be in attack mode when it comes to entrepreneurship. But just because you're extroverted doesn't mean you're a good entrepreneur, right? Because a lot of times you have that expressive, extroverted personality, and you lack the ability to focus. You lack the ability to kind of see things through. You sort of always are hopping to other things. It's sort of the natural qualities and characteristics of an extrovert. And so where the introverts really excel is that ability to focus, that ability to really push through and finish things and things like that. And so I think like extroverts and introverts, they need to learn from themselves to get to what's called an ambivert. An ambivert, like you're ambidextrous, right? Mm-hmm. Like you need to learn how to leverage the benefits of both styles, right? While at the same time sort of diminishing the detriments of both styles. But it seems to me, Trev, that the biggest thing that because there's a lot of hard skills when it comes to entrepreneurship. Learning things like P&L and things like that. But it's the mindset that people don't have. That even if they want to go out and shop their own project, even if they want to go out and self-publish their own book, and they just don't have the right mindset. Mindset is the thing I feel like that really disables their entire approach. Yeah. And so I agree with you. I feel like there's some people that are just born entrepreneurs. That Gary V sort of New Jersey, New York hustler, like LeBron James was born a basketball player. Gary V was born an entrepreneur. But that doesn't mean that you can't teach me how to play basketball. Right. Yeah. It doesn't mean that there's some people that were born to write. That doesn't mean you can't learn how to write. Now, well, does that mean I'm going to be as good as LeBron James? No, not necessarily. Right. Probably not. Just because I learned how to play piano, am I going to be as good as Elton John? Of course not. Right. But if I have that same mindset and sort of follow that same path, I can pick up another skill set that's going to help me. I may not sell out in an arena on piano, but I can like really spice up my Christmas party, right? By jumping on the, are
Right.
those illegal too? Maybe by Christmas won't be illegal. I don't know.
Christmas
I
is,
don't know.
yeah.
My digital Christmas party, I can play piano. So quickly, I know we have a shorter episode today, but I want to go through what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur, and I put together a list, and I'll just kind of let you react and riff on this, just as we were prepping for the show today. So what I see is part and parcel of the mindset of an entrepreneur that anybody that wants to lean into an entrepreneurial mindset would want to figure out how to learn and get better at. So entrepreneurs, in my mind, are decisive. That I feel like self-doubt and not being able just to make a decision is that really limits your ability as an entrepreneur. I think the best entrepreneurs they kill doubt. They just like make a decision and keep moving. Sharks are always moving through the water. They never stop moving. Does that mean they always make the right decision? No. But there's a decisiveness that comes along with entrepreneurship that I feel like a lot of the introverted writer group, they don't have. It's like, oh, what should I do this? Or should I do this? Should I do this? And then 3 years later, you're still trying to make that decision.
Yeah. So let's stop right there on decisiveness. And I'm going to give all of you out there in the creative world a major tip, and you'll get further, put out more products, get more things bought, because you'll have more to offer. Not everything will. When we talk about decisiveness, stop trying to make your IP, your project, your novel perfect. In the business world, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, 70% is where the number we're thinking about. We want to look at, if I have this set in a business, 70% of my business plan done, 70% of the business built up, or the idea, it's time to go out. Because what happens is we get indecisive, we get paralysis by overanalysis by trying to make something perfect, when you just want to get things out into the market. Start talking about the project, start tweeting, social media, whatever it is, start shopping it, whatever it is, because people are going to come alongside you if you got a great idea and help bolster that thing up, and you'll be completing it along the way. I don't even think you'll ever think something is totally.
Of course not. No, complete. You never do, ever. I mean, do you ever look back? How often do you look back at one of your songs that you probably spent hundreds of hours of mixing and mastering, and you felt pretty good about it, and then you look back on it 2 years later, you're like, oh man, I wish I would have changed this.
Oh,
you always do that, right?
Always.
I hate every single time.
Star Wars.
Sure.
He had those movies done.
100%.
That's not even 70% of the world. The first three. Think about it. How long this has been going. But he had to 100%. Get something out.
Get something out. Yeah, 100%. You don't fall prey to that analysis paralysis. I have a friend who's an umpire, and major league umpire, and he was telling me, he said the worst thing you can do as an umpire is hesitate for a call. He says declare it. He said even if you don't know, are they out? Are they safe? He's like, just say something. Just do something. Because the worst thing you can do is be like, right? And then because it just sort of amplifies what you do. He said, just call them out, call them safe. Doesn't matter if you're wrong or right. If it's able to be reviewed, you review it and we'll fix it. If it's not able to be reviewed, you just keep moving on. And so being decisive doesn't mean always being right all the time. It just means making the decision. I was at Popeyes the other day, Trav, and I was sitting there waiting in line, 6 feet apart. And there was this lady that was ordering, and they said, what kind of sauce do you want with your chicken tenders? Right. And, they have 4 or 5 different kinds of sauces. And she sat there for 5 minutes trying to decide what sauce to go with her chicken tenders. And she was like, oh, I don't know, the barbecue or maybe the spicy. And I'm sitting there like, come on, lady. Like really? it was one. It wasn't. I mean, I was bothered just because it was eating into my time. But the most shocking thing is she couldn't make a decision about dipping sauce for the chicken tenders. I'm like, just pick one. Just pick one. It doesn't matter if it's the best one you've ever had. It doesn't matter if it's the right one. Just pick one. So I secretly judged her in my mind. I'm like, this lady is not an entrepreneur. There's no way this lady's an entrepreneur. No way.
I know. I wish. When is it right to tell someone? I would. There's the movie Liar Liar where Jim Carrey was like,
yep,
saying what was on his mind, telling the truth. That was telling the truth. What if there were? I really would like to see it acted out. A world where half the people, not unfiltered, they're not mean. They just say things like, "Ma'am, would you decide already?"
Right. Sure.
There's only 5, right?
Sure.
And what does that look like where it's an unfiltered world? What does that world look like where people just say what you telling people like you're overacting, shut. We get really polite.
Yep.
So we don't correct someone else's kid in
yeah, of course, right?
Your kid. Right.
You're like, you just make a decision. And I think with creatives, like, oh, should I self-publish my own novel? Shouldn't I? Should I post short stories on Wattpad? Shouldn't I? Should I do the podcast? And if so, what is it? Like creatives get into that thing and just try, just do it. Just make a decision and do it.
And you push, you said like there's not a lot of self-doubt, not over analyzing. I think that when you have something and you feel it's good, you feel good about the idea, no matter what it is, put it out on anything. Just get started. There's a quote. Many times the secret to the secret to getting ahead is simply getting started.
Yeah, 100%, right. The Pete Rose said you can't steal second with your foot on first. Right. And there's like good baseball wisdom in that. You gotta, if you never take your foot off first base, you'll never get to second. Right. So I think that's a quality that I think is part of entrepreneurship, and just practice it. And again, these things can be learned. Practice being decisive. If you get into that conversation, what should we have for dinner? I don't know what to eat for lunch. Practice just making the decision, because you'll never know the alternative. You'll never know whether it was the right decision or the bad decision, right? Like we can never see the other timeline, right? And so just practice making fast decisions. And so that then when you go to your creative life and you're just trying to decide, should I launch the podcast? Should I not? It's going to be a little bit more muscle memory, right? But I think that decisiveness is something that we have to practice. I think, just part of being an entrepreneur as well, the characteristics of being an entrepreneur is confidence. So there's decisiveness, but also confidence. Like whenever I meet entrepreneurs, they always sort of have this comfort level and confidence with themselves and with what they're doing. That's pretty cool. It's exciting, right? I think writers, especially creators, especially novelists, I think, they're, because of that introverted personality, they sort of get into this very unconfident mode. Neil Gaiman said, he said, if you teach a kid to read, he'll read a book. If you teach a kid to write, he'll be mired in self-doubt for the rest of his life. And that's sort of this lack of confidence that I feel like I have, that creators seemingly have. But entrepreneurs have it, and it's just there. Yeah. And it's not that they always know what they're doing. I think confidence is being comfortable with not knowing what you're doing, right? Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You have an entrepreneur has to have confidence. They usually do have it. And they have to have kind of like a subcategory of that is thick skin. They have something, and they don't let people tear it down. Creatives, man, we get sensitive. I'm a sensitive guy, right?
Sure.
Like I'll get over, and I've had to learn, even being an entrepreneur, like I have this, you're going to tell me no, I'm going to hear no's, but I've got confidence. When I got my first record, I was 15, 16, I'm telling you, I barely could see. I could hold notes. I was a natural singer. I just didn't have the skill sets, quality. And the natural skill sets of some of those guys you see at like Michael Jackson 5, he's riffing up and down all the scales. I never was that. I just had an ear, tone, and could sing. I couldn't sang, as they say in the hood.
Yeah.
But I would go up to people. My group's going to make it. We're good. We hit these different demographics because there was 5 of us. My person is this, so I'll get these people. We had this whole business plan down. We'd sing, we'd dance, and we would pitch that. God knows. Oh well, they're the fool. They're crazy.
Sure.
Not that we wouldn't take critique. You have to be smart enough to take the critique, the constructive criticism, and better yourself. But that wasn't going to stop us. People have told me no, and I had tears in my eyes as a kid. We're like, you can't get the record deal, but wipe the tears, walk out of that meeting. Okay, on to the next. Someone's going to sign me.
That's it. I think so. There was a study done about what makes successful entrepreneurs. Like, what is the key characteristics? And the number one characteristics, the common thread through all successful entrepreneurs, is a thing that's called grit and resilience in the face of failure. And my dad always used to say that the only people who never fail are the people who never do anything. Everybody fails, but entrepreneurs are comfortable in failure. They're fine with experimentation. They're fine with trying something doesn't work, learn that lesson, move on, right? Or try it again in a different way. And that's something that creatives need to build, and that's a callus that you build over time. I think you build grit through reps. Right, you just have to have reps with experimentation and have reps with failure. One of the most valuable classes I ever took in college was a class, advanced creative writing class, where you would write something, and they would put you in the middle of the class, like in a circle, middle of a circle, and then everybody would read your work and react to it and give their thoughts and critique on it. And you couldn't speak. Every time you would speak to defend yourself or explain yourself, your grade would lower. And so you just had to sit there and take it. And it was the most sadistic, awful thing that I've ever experienced, because people are reading my poetry or they read my short story, and I'm like, you're not getting it. You read it wrong. You missed this whole part, right? Like, I wanted to sit there and like defend it. Like, it's called subtext, you idiot. Like, I wanted to yell at everyone and punch everyone, right? But I knew I couldn't because my grade would lower. And I thought, like, that is the stupidest class I've ever had. But now as a professional, I look back on that and see that was one of the most valuable experiences I could have gone through, because it allowed me to build a callus. And where, now every time someone hits me with a bad comment or hits me with a bad review, or they don't like my stuff, it doesn't sting as much, right? And I've been blessed with a wife who is 100% savage with my work. So she continually makes sure that callus is there. Some people have wives that are like, "Oh, this is really nice, honey." My wife, Courtney, she just goes for the jugular. She's like, "You need to step up your game. This is not good." Right? Like, so
I got one of those.
You got one of those, right? So they make us better. They build that callus. But I remember, Trev, you may remember this, the script that I wrote several years ago. It got sent to somebody for coverage. And I remember that person, that coverage that was returned is, "This is terrible. This person will never be a writer." That's what I have the script. She wrote the notes on the script. And what's funny is one of our business partners sent this script to for somebody for coverage, and paid her for the coverage, and that's something you don't do. You never pay anybody for coverage. And her business is a script doctor, right? And so all of a sudden, you send a script to a script doctor for coverage. You pay her for the coverage. Of course, they're going to come back like, "Oh no, this needs complete work." And guess what? They're there to fix it for another paycheck. It's a hustle that one of our old business partners, what I'm talking about, Trav, just didn't really he didn't understand that hustle. But I still have that script. And for this person will never be a writer. That's a hard thing to hear. Right?
On that, I know we haven't got through the characteristic list, but this tells me, hey, you artists, writers, trying to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, be careful who you share your projects with, not because they'll steal them, but they may try to steal your joy, your
Sure.
confidence. They are a buffet, a messenger of Satan, sent to just kill,
100%.
steal, and destroy your dreams. You have to be careful with that. Now, you do have to take critique, get it seen, have the grit and
Yeah.
grind to go over certain things. But certain people are just are vicious, and they don't want to see you. They actually see your talent. They don't want to see you make it. So that's just a little side note.
Sure. I mean, you think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. Goes and tells his brothers his dream, and what do? They throw him in a pit and sell him off to slavery. There's certain people you don't tell your dream to, right? Like you have to be real careful about that. But for me, like, I don't know if it's because I grew up in sports, went to college to play baseball. I'm just a hyper competitive guy. When I get negative critique, it fuels me like fire. Like, I'm stubborn and persistent, and so I want to. I don't know if this is a like a personality flaw of mine, Trav, but like when somebody says this sucks, you can't do this, this isn't good, I want to improve it, not necessarily just to improve it. I want to improve it just like to shove it down their throats, right? And I know that's probably not the Christian thing to do, but I want, there's like, I don't know, it's vindictiveness or something in me that was like, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. And I use that to kind of like fuel the fire in my belly. And I think that's sort of like an entrepreneurial habit. Because I know a lot of creatives, they wilt at that, right? And they become super protective and they get destroyed by that negative critique. I use it like Hulk smash rage, that I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna show you, right? I'm gonna come back and show you. So speaking of my wife, me and my wife, we were grade school sweethearts. Right, not even high school sweethearts, grade school sweethearts, where we went out in 5th grade, she dumped me in 5th grade. We went out again in 7th grade, she dumped me at a dance, right? Hid in the bathroom, made her friends come out and break it. Yeah, right. She then I asked her out again when we were freshmen. She denied me, right? Then ultimately started going out in with as a senior, and then we've kind of been together ever since. But so for me, I have this natural, like, you know what? Like this grit and determination and like perseverance to like work through those no's, and it's worked out, at least in my marriage. But I think creatively, this is why people don't ask other people out, right, Trav? I mean, everybody knows this. You don't want to ask a girl out because you don't want to be told no. Like I always was fascinated by the guys that could just like walk up to a girl and just ask for her number, right? Like that was like incredible. Like I never really knew how to do that very well. But like they didn't have a fear of being told no.
And that's why you see ugly guys with hot chicks. I'm telling you, I'll see them. Right. Good entrepreneurs, man. They'll just go and they'll say, and their confidence is sexy, for lack of a better word. It's attractive. Sure. So I think a characteristic of an entrepreneur, that confidence that you mentioned, that one's so important. Sometimes something about your project isn't that great, but your confidence attracted the people will buy you. Sometimes.
Absolutely, man. 100%. So how can a creative get more confidence?
Honestly, I believe that it's a self-awareness to say that I'm not.
Sure.
And it can be learned. It can be accepted. So you have this, I was super shy and I'm extrovert. Nothing bothers me. But I had a friend, Joe Butler, best friend in 7th grade. I used to watch him mill about the halls, and he had this confidence. He went up to the prettiest 9th graders were in 7th grade. When you're 9th grade and 7th grade, 9th grade seems like they're the king of school.
Sure, of
and
course.
These girls could dance. They were so popular. And he got them to be his background dancers for a lip sync contest at school. How did this 7th grader pull that off? I just sat back. Me and my brothers, I'm laughing. How did this little knucklehead? And he started telling the story, and we laughed. So I just asked him. I told him, "Hey, I need y'all to be my background dancers."
Right.
And he just had this crazy confidence. I said, I have to learn that. So I befriended him, and I just watched him for years. I just
stay around confident people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
he wouldn't
good.
get embarrassed. I would see him fall down and just laughing. And I saw that no one ever stopped being his friend. All the things that I was afraid of losing, I started creating these only, it was a figment of my imagination. Cast down those imaginations. And I think that people can learn that. You can learn confidence, hang around, know who you are.
That's a good note. I mean, you're the product of the 5 people you hang around with. So if you're around, if your closest friends are all people that are mired in self-doubt all the time, then of course you're gonna lack confidence. But yeah, growth comes out of intentionality, right? You have to be intentional about putting yourselves around other people that are super confident, and just going through the reps of experimenting and failure, reps of experimenting, failure, experiment, failure. It's the reps that I think will get you there, because eventually, after you fail the 400th time, it's not as painful as you failed the first 2 times, right? And that's how you get confidence. That's how I think you get grit. But you have to have that ability to fail. But at the same time, another characteristic of entrepreneurship, I think, is accountability. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Trav. We had a good breakfast conversation about just holding yourself personally accountable. You want to have grit, and you want to have confidence, and you want to be able to shove it down the throats of the people that don't like your stuff, right? And that's all good. And you don't want to be completely marred by negative reaction or failure. But at the same time, you have to own up when you've screwed up, right? You have to be able, like you said, you have to be self-aware. You have to be self-aware when your skills aren't up to snuff. You have to be self-aware when you need more education. You have to be self-aware that the product isn't as good as it can be. You have to be self-aware that that note actually is right. I need to fix it this way, right? And rather than make excuses, being quick to accountability. I'm dealing with that with my 6-year-old right now, Soraya. She's she'll do something, and she'll say, "Daddy, you made me do this," or whatever, and she'll blame it on me, and I'm like, no, you need to take personal accountability. You spilled this, right? You spilled the milk on the table. Just take personal accountability. Say, I spilled the milk. Let's move on, right? But I'm trying to instill that. She's always quick to say, whoa, it was the table was wobbly, or the dog scared me. I spilled my milk. She's like, shift and blame. I'm like, no, just accept it. Accept you spilled the milk. Let's clean it up and move on. We're not going to dwell on it. But unless you take personal accountability, you're not going to be able to grow. And so I think good entrepreneurs have that, don't you think?
Absolutely. They, I love the people that when I'm in sales courses, classes, been through a lot of training, a lot of entrepreneurial sales, and I used to not want to be on what we call the hot seat. What my business mentor teaches me. He'll be doing a class. You got to get up in the middle, role play.
Yeah. Sure. That's the worst.
And even as actors, I had to do role play, just like you have to get your script read in front of everyone.
Yep.
And I want to be the best. I want to be awesome. I want to be great. I want to have excellence, right? So I want to be self-aware for one, confident enough to go up, and then accountable enough to say, I don't have it all. I don't know it all. I want to nail this the way I read this. Can everyone tell me if I read this right or wrong? And you get this attitude when you looked at, hey, I want to be coached, instead of saying someone's judging me. They're coaching me up. I want to be coached. Sure. So I've taken the attitude whenever I'm in those situations, I'll say, hey, Houston, we have this pitch coming up. We're going into Fox Studios. I was thinking about saying this, but tell me if this is cheesy, because I don't want to blow this money for us. All right. Sure. Hey, we have this great script. It does this, that. It's about this and this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And you would say, you know what? I think that we should, product's good, but let's get to the point faster, because I don't want you to lose. Okay, cool. So I should say this on this beat and come within 10 seconds of this. That's called as an entrepreneur, especially creatives and artists, if you want to get something done, put yourself out there, be accountable, say, yeah, you know what? I said that wasn't right, or I did this and that could be better.
Sure.
So, taking the accountability with the self-awareness and mixing that with the confidence to go up, put yourself out there in front of people.
And you have to, like, accountability with creatives, accountability can get into condemnation and like depression, where like they get to like, oh, it's my fault, I suck, I can, I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I should rethink my life and my career, like, right, like that is very, the good parts about creatives and good parts about artists are the vulnerable authenticity that they have to make good art. You need a vulnerable authenticity to be able to produce good product and tell great stories. So you have sort of this open soul, almost like an open wound, right? It's like you expose yourself, and that's what makes the good art. But the back end of that is the same thing that produces the good art can lead to that painful rejection, or when they do take accountability, it turns into depression and like you're beating yourself up, right? And it could, like, imposter syndrome of like, I shouldn't be, it shouldn't be me, I shouldn't have the success, I'm actually a failure, right? And so there's a fine line between saying, you know what, yeah, that wasn't good, like this was not as good as it should be, that like I screwed up, I pitched it wrong, I wrote it, I didn't write it in the right way, the different tone, the different style, complete. Do you remember when we were pitching Fury to Thomas at Fox, and it was early, and he said to us, he said, you know what, I think you should rework this with like a young adult vibe, and re-engineer this to be kids, teenagers, and it'll just be. He said, I think that's a better way to go. And this was before Hunger Games, Maze Runner, all that YA explosion, right? And so we were like, what are you talking about? Like, no, we want adult. We want adult
entertainment. About that tip.
We want adult fiction, right? Like we want like adult movies. We don't want to tell. Why would we want to tell stories with teenagers, right? And then all of a sudden, that languishes in development. It never gets produced. While at the same time, Hunger Games, Maze Runner, all these things sort of shoot off the charts. And I can look back and say we were 100% wrong. Like, he was 100% right. We were 100% wrong. We should have taken the note. We didn't. That was the wrong decision.
Yeah, it was a brilliant note too, because like all these Hunger Games, all these shows from TV to film,
100, all that stuff. Yeah, 100%. Right, and he was giving us that insight, and then giving us that because he knew what was coming down the pipeline, and we didn't take it, and we see in the results of that we should have that our movie never got made. While at the same time, Suzanne Collins, the creator of the Hunger Games, is a zillionaire at this point. So, do I beat myself up about that? No. Am I depressed about that? No. But did we make the 100% wrong call? Yes.
Yep.
Right. You just have to learn to do that. And sometimes, I don't know how you kind of walk that line. But I think taking accountability. We were sitting with our that entrepreneur coach, Dan Vega, and he told us, he said, guys, listen, I know you want to make movies, I know you want to create the entertainment. He said, but the most valuable thing you have is your process.
Yeah.
Like teach people your process. And we were like, you're crazy. No, we want to tell stories. We want to make movies, right? And we do, and we like that's what we do, right? But he was 100% right about the process, and we didn't see it right then, right?
And that's just about having that entrepreneurial mindset of, because one will open up the door for another. Guess who funds movies and music and all that? Entrepreneurs.
Sure, 100%.
Who started businesses.
100%.
And think about if you can become that entrepreneur who funds and you're oversensitive, but then you don't have to worry about it. You're doing things. Uh, uh, I have the business I have with my son. I said, I want something that can make money while I'm working on my dreams and my goals. And my passion is art, and it's my gift to the world, what God has blessed me with. But I also love people. So I said, let me find a business that I can help people. But then it's something that doesn't require me there, but it requires my mindset and some things that I can touch on for a few hours a week. And so I did it, and it's going great. And I get funds from that every quarter, and I'm able to invest those funds because it's just extra money and put it into things like when you and I did the video, the music stuff that I just did the other day that went out, and just talked about equality, all that stuff. That made me feel good to be able to do that. But I had something that was able to fund that and pay for the production. It's worth it being an entrepreneur 100%. While being an artist.
100%.
We have our saying, the NSA, no starving artists allowed. No starving artists. You don't have to starve. I want artists to grow, to build, to be able to eat. I want you to grind and have a hunger for what you want to do, but I don't want you to be physically hungry to where.
That's it. That's it. You know, the last characteristic of an entrepreneur that I wrote down is teachable. There's a humility there's an ego that goes along with entrepreneurship, and just like there's an ego that goes along with being an artist. But there's a humility that also goes along with entrepreneurship, where you remain teachable. There was a quote that says, "If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room." Right? You're always putting yourself in a situation to learn more, to better your skills. You've never arrived ever, right? There's an insatiable desire just to learn more stuff, and I think creatives, in a large part, have that to some extent. They'll go to film school and they'll do, but at some certain point, they don't want to learn more than their sort of focused, skill set, right? That they've already have. They want to improve that to some extent. But then even at a certain point, you feel like, well, I've written so many scripts at this point. I've sold 50, television shows, and I've, written 10 movies and whatever. So, I'm pretty good right now. Like, you don't necessarily even need to improve that anymore. Right. But don't you think entrepreneurs they're some of the good entrepreneurs are some of the most teachable people that you'll ever meet. They want to read every book, take every class, be around as many mentors as possible.
Yeah, sitting under Dan Vega, his class, sitting under my business mentor, sitting under when I worked in Legal Shield. One thing I always got handed books to read. Books that were better than what I read in high school, and didn't go to college, but even more than just a textbook in college. These were practical. You are who your friends are. Your net worth is made up of your network. Your network determines your net worth. So you read these books of people who have done it, who are teaching the fortitude. That's what I'm saying. They can be learned, and the philosophy was read 10 pages of a good book every day. You'll end up reading a book a month by doing that, or a little bit over. And CEOs, entrepreneurs, they're always devouring knowledge. That means they're
100%.
getting coached.
Absolutely.
You can get coached by a mentor, or you can get coached and learn something from a book, and it'll open up your mind to so many. And you mentioned something about people will go to pay for USC. They don't even realize that they just made an entrepreneurial move right there. They took out a loan, or they paid for it. They invested in their career. Get a return on your investment, guys.
Absolutely right. One of the cool stories I heard recently was Pitbull. Pitbull, the producer, the artist. He went and took an internship at Google, and just to learn, Google stuff. Wow. Just to learn more about technology, learn more about the internet, the economy of the internet. Like, he didn't go in and have a sit down with Mark Zuckerberg, or like at some fancy dinners and interview. Like, he went through the internship process and just got an internship. And then he was just like all the other interns. And it wasn't for a reality show or anything like that. He just went and he took notes and he learned. right? He did a whole summer as an internship as an intern at Google, and Pitbull is wildly successful.
Yeah.
High level millionaire. He's an entrepreneur in his own right with other investments. He has a variety of things. But I thought that like the humility that he showed to say, you know what, there's something I don't know that I want to know, and I'm going to put myself in a position that most people would say would be like beneath me, below my station. But that's what he was willing to do just to learn. And I absolutely love that. And I think that's why, if I could live to be 700 years old, I would learn how to speak every language, read every book, take every master class on the planet. Like, that's just the kind of person I am. And so, and it's not if you're a screenwriter, it's not just about reading every screenwriting book to become a better screenwriter, right? Like, it's read those books that push you out of the comfort zone. Take those master classes that push you out of your comfort zone. I subscribe to actual masterclass, and I love it. And I love the writing ones and the novel ones and all that. But I find myself like watching there's great entrepreneur ones. Sarah Blakely, the CEO of Spanx, the founder of Spanx, has a great masterclass on entrepreneurism, but an entrepreneurship. But I started watching watching one about makeup. Like, how do you put on makeup? Right? Yeah. I don't wear makeup. I don't care about makeup. But you know what I like? I like learning new bizarre things. I like being pushed out of my comfort zone. I like watching other people operate in a level of expertise that I don't have. That always impresses me. And I'm always like drawn to that in a certain way, right? It's just good for you to do that.
I was telling my daughter, very beautiful young lady, supermodel looks on, right? Everyone thinks their kids are good looking. Like,
sure.
She's striking, right? So she doesn't. Oh, she just got back from Europe, but we've been sitting in this pandemic, and I said, let's work on the business skills. Quit looking for the break from other people. I said, let's build up your audience. Let's shoot. She said, but I don't have the right camera, or your camera's better than mine, or I need this setup, or I said, let's go back to the beginning, guys. We have 70% of everything we need.
That's it. You're 100% right.
We have an iPhone. You do have a ring light. We have tons, but my room isn't made. I said, no, shoot in the garage. Talk about harmony in the garage and what you do there in the workout stuff. Shoot in your dad's office. Talk about have a topic about entrepreneurship and business and how you're bettering. You got a lot to teach these young ladies. But see, the entrepreneurial mind will take that 7%, be confident in who they are.
That's it.
Then they would take the coaching that their father's giving them, and then they would just go. I said, build up that audience where people are knocking on your door. You're making so much money during COVID because people are buying stuff online. People like you, a model for Instagram needs to be product placement. And that's the entrepreneurial mindset, though. When I was with Wheel of Fortune, what I got doing, I'm the artist. I'm the on location talent, and making a decent living when I go out to these different markets. But I said, you know what? My character, I said, I'm a writer, a songwriter. And Houston, you were telling me something back then about people making millions in jingles and stuff. I said, wait a second. I can write a jingle in my sleep. I write a jingle for them. I present it to the head producers. Oh, we love this, Travis. Blah, blah. You have to start thinking. Yeah. And it allowed me to use a different talent other than acting by being 100%. Have an entrepreneurial mindset. So
I'm telling you, it's mindset. And so decisiveness, confidence, accountability, grit, humility, being teachable. These are things that are part and parcel of actual just regular entrepreneurs. But the more that the creatives can lean into being decisive, being confident, holding themselves accountable, having grit, determination, being teachable, being willing to learn as much as they can, as quickly as they can. I think the more they're going to naturally lean into that super story model, the more they're going to find more opportunities in the marketplace. It's just, and to sum it all up, I think for me, what makes an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur is always attacking, always moving forward. There's always forward momentum. We're always on offense, right? And so many creatives, I feel like, are playing prevent defense. like the entire time. And forgive my sports analogies, but if you're in prevent defense all the time and you're never going offense, you're never going to win a game. And so, but entrepreneurs are always attacking, always experimenting, always doing, do. And the more that creatives can do and attack and do and move forward. I think that the better off they're going to be. I love it when I get hit up on Twitter or get emails from people and say, Houston, I've been sitting on a screenplay for 3 years, but because of the Super Story podcast, now I just started my own podcast to launch my IP. I just finished 20 short stories that I'm going to upload as a series on Wattpad. I'm figuring out how to turn this into a YouTube series. Thank you, because now I feel like I'm doing something. Stay in attack mode, that full court press the entire time. Ultimately, that is going to yield better results. But entrepreneurs are always moving forward, and that's my encouragement.
I think that we have to make our own way out here. But if God has given you a talent, and I attribute things to God, that's just me. And I think there's a lot of talented people out there that deserve to. That need to be heard. I don't want to say what you deserve, but need to be heard. You have a God-given talent and you have a gifting, and your attitude is hindering you. And I'll say this from what Norman Vincent Peale said. He said, "Any fact facing us is not as important as our attitude toward it, for that determines our success or failure. The way you think about a fact may defeat you before you ever do anything about it. You are overcome by the fact because you think you are." Creatives get overcome by entrepreneurship and thinking that that's this skill set that's otherworldly because they think they are. And it's something that could really help them be seen, be heard, and live the life that they've always wanted and do the thing that they've always wanted more. So I'll leave it with that.
That's it. Well, I'll leave it at that too, as a good way to wrap it up. So thank you, Trav, for jumping in. Hopefully Brad isn't under Thanksgiving arrest this week. If he's not arrested, then we'll be back next week. But I really honestly wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We're leading it. This is the show leading into Thanksgiving. So be sure to close your blinds, lock your doors. Don't let the police in if they come. That's it. Have an awesome Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you guys next time.